Later on in life, so I'm gonna love this one right.
Is it my imagination, or did you read just a little bit more leaning this way because it's leaning towards the sun?
Well, I'm looking at the main structure of the tree,
yeah,
and trying to balance it out.
That's what I was thinking. You were letting this one go, like for example, not cutting this one.
Well, this one we can get right there. I tell people pruning trees is kind of like raising children. Your main goal is the outcome of what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of sacrifice a little bit on the front end now, so you get the shape and design and the structure that you want it to be next year.
Yeah, because I missed it since I've been here.
Now, because the sap is about to be on the rise, it's still going to put out new buds. I noticed yesterday and today, I already have red buds on my apple tree. When you see them start budding out like these are trying to do, that's when you want to do them.
Okay.
You can see the new growth right here is starting to green up. It's starting to get a green tint to it. That means the sap's coming up in it and it's getting ready to grow. So all of these little small ones are going to start to grow, but you're keeping the main core of that tree about right there. And as these all load down with fruit, when they make, then they will start drooping and sagging down from the weight of the fruit. So that's why you want all downturned limbs under the bottom of around the lower canopy. You want anything coming downward, you want to get rid of that. You want out and up.
Out and up.
It gives it more sunlight for the fruit when it starts developing,
yeah.
and it takes some of the weight off of the structure. Like the next time you do it, you kind of want to stay right, the main structure of the tree needs to stay right there. Every structure of every tree is a little bit different. The sun carries over on the other side throughout the day hours. And this side of the tree, luckily, which is rare, is a little bit heavier on this side of the tree. So we pruned it a little harder and a little lighter on the other side because the tree is going to have a natural tendency to grow toward the sunlight.
The morning sun, though.
Right.
I mean, the sun goes all the way across, but
many homeowners look at their trees like you had mentioned, and like, I've tried to stake them, I've tried to pull them back, but they just keep going that direction. It's an innate nature for them to grow to the sunlight.
Yeah.
So that's why you have trees that look and have that leaning appearance to them, is they're trying to simply get the sunlight. So you want to kind of balance the tree at a young age, so you wind up with the end product that you're looking for, with a nice balanced tree and the main core structure low enough to where you're going to be picking fruit. If you do have to use a pole attachment or a ladder to pick fruit, it's not very high off the ground.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, a deer has got a hold of this tree and broken a limb on it. As you can see under here, that is badly split into the core of the limb. This is weakened and it's going to wind up breaking.
So it's just kind of split there, right?
You will lose that anyway.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and sacrifice it now, so that nourishment can be going to the rest of the limbs that we want. Thanks, Mr. Deer.
This is a good example of the tree going towards the sun.
Right.
And is there any point in trying to see there's no it's not doing anything because we haven't tightened it?
You are helping support the tree because its weight has shifted that way, but you won't stop it from growing that way.
Okay.
Once the main structure has began to grow in that direction, it's always going to be heavy on that side. So although it may look a little funny in appearance, you'd always want to keep that side trimmed off and let this side kind of catch up with it to kind of balance the weight of the tree.
So there's no point in tightening this?
I'd really say it's probably not going to do a whole lot of good.
Okay.
The wind is going to flex and sway the tree as well, which is going to re-loosen those again. Every time it rains, the ground gets soft, and then you get a wind that pulls on it, and it just kind of, it just does that until it gets loose again.
I got all these moles. It's like walking on sponges.
And that's the biggest limb on the tree, so that's what I started with to see where I want to balance the rest of the structure. And once again, it's going to want to grow this way towards the sun. So we want to prune it heavy on this side and let the other side kind of catch up with it. So. Well, as we was talking about the sun drawing the tree in that direction to grow in that direction, we cut some heavier limbs on this side to balance it out. So we made heavy cuts on this side and light cuts on the other side to allow the tree to promote growth on that side and catch up with this. And we would always follow up with remaining prunings in the future to kind of keep this heavy side of the tree where it's at, and just let your new growth, which is what provides the fruit anyway. Neem oil is usually obtainable at any local co-op or plant center. It's good for the tree, and it also keeps the bugs and everything off of it, as well as your fruit. In our particular region, you have to start very early with that spraying, and you have to spray often.
Is it too late now?
No, it's a little bit early.
Okay.
But they do make some granule stuff for grubs that come out of the ground and crawl up the base of the tree that you can put down earlier. Most all of your plant centers and co-ops carry it. And there's various brands of fruit sprays and everything that has neem oil in it. There's some other additives and pesticides involved in stuff that is safe for fruit trees and edible fruit and everything that you can put on these. You do want to start early, in the early part of the spring when the tree starts foliaging out. That's when you want to start getting it on there and keep it on there. I have found, which is a little bit burdensome, but I have found that almost a weekly spraying is necessary on a heavy bearing fruit tree. Most of the sprays have a mixture of the chemicals and ingredients involved in there, and you can get a good combination. Your extension agent at the agricultural extension facility and a lot of your staff that has experience at the co-op facilities and everything, they can give you a little more information on what is a good selection to pick and put on there. But pretty much any fruit tree spray is going to have an ingredient of neem oil in there, and it does help a lot with the tree and the bugs. Not a lot to this one, just a little bit of balancing out. It's a good time to do a small tree like that because you're not taking much off of it. We cut the center structure out of the top to balance it out, so the side limbs will promote growth, so it'll be broader.
Well, there's a bunch of little limbs going straight up, and is that a problem?
No, it's not a problem right now. These are going to turn into bigger limbs, but you want to keep this as the tree grows. With us cutting this up here, it's going to promote side growth to get broader, and we want to kind of keep, as the tree grows, we want to kind of keep the top nipped out of it so it will get some body to the side of it. And as you can see, we cut a main structure out of the top to reduce height, promote side growth, and just a few little trimming to kind of balance the tree off where it's even and symmetrical. We want to promote width and side growth for fruit-bearing trees. Not only does it give us nice aesthetical look, so it'll be pleasing to the appearance, but you want to keep the height out of the fruit trees so your mass of the tree doesn't get too big and break on you, and you're able to pick the fruit as this tree grows. You want a nice, round, broad-shaped tree that's easy for the fruit to pick. So we're going to clip the top out of this to promote side growth, so these limbs will grow more than this. But you want to be very careful as to where you cut the tree. You always want to leave a little sucker limbs in there. And this one I'm going to select right here. So Clayton, if you'll whack that one right there. That promotes these small little sucker limbs, that promotes them to grow. But it'll be a while for those to catch up, and it gives these a chance to catch up out this way instead of getting height. Not only am I giving it just a little haircut to make it even and nice looking, just a little nip on the limb gives it a little bit of stunt, just so it kind of slows it down a little bit. The stuff we don't touch is going to take off and continue to grow. These are like, ouch, you hurt me a little bit, so I'm going to get my feelings back in order, and then I'll start growing again. So it's just a little bit of a retardant that don't need to be growing back toward the center of the tree, rubbing other limbs.
I have those little red things, but I can put them in there to hold those branches out.
There's not really nothing to hook this one to.
Oh.
I would love to see this one kind of grow this way.
I have a longer one.
Like I say, it's trying to go to the sun over there. So we could also sometimes just reposition them. We want outward growth, so anything you see coming out is good. Anything going in is just going to clutter the tree and make it too thick inside. Some of these little nubs will turn into limbs one day. This will look like this a few months from now. We're going to nip a few of these off.
Is that good? Because this is, I was trying to figure out.
It's a matter of preference. We can actually remove this one if you want to open up the center of the tree, but be very careful on fruit trees.
That's big now.
A lot of times, if it's very odd shaped, and you can generally notice them when they're young, that is the graft of the tree on some varieties where they graft into it.
Oh, I thought the graft was lower down here.
Sometimes they are. It just depends on where it's at.
Here.
Right. If you cut out or lose the graft, you lose the variety of the tree.
Right.
We had some that was grafted at the Amish. They used plum tree stock.
Okay.
To graft off of, and they graft a peach into it.
That's cool.
Okay, and it was going to be a peach tree.
Yeah.
Well, my son, it was very small. My son accidentally hit it with the lawnmower and whacked it off.
Yeah.
Kind of like yours that the deer got over there.
Yeah.
It come back up, but it made a cluster.
Uh-huh.
My wife said, leave it alone, let it grow, we'll see what happens. It turned into one of the prettiest round trees in the yard.
You see, wives?
But it's a plum now.
Okay.
We lost the peach. It went back to its rootstock.
Yeah, well, a lot of times rootstock is not even tasty, right?
You can cut a green branch off of them. It's commonly done with fruit trees. I've seen people do it often with willow trees. Good softwood trees is easy to root. So you could take a good green branch out of this, and a lot of times when they'll take a branch, if we remove and cut this branch out, you scuff up the base a little bit and put it in some good stagnant water, rainwater, and leave it there and it will actually sprout roots and you can form another tree. Well, that's where you get your root stock. You can use that tree if you had a bunch of plums, for example, that was sprouting coming up in your yard, or you pruned the plum trees. You could take that sprig, root it, get roots growing on it, plant that tree, and then graft it with a peach or an apricot and get apricot out of the plum rootstock. Picking a fruit tree, if you're going to buy one, you want a straight trunk. You don't want a cluster or a fork.
Right.
You want a straight trunk that branches and clusters out about halfway up. That one is perfect. That would be my pick. If I was buying trees, that's what you want it to look like. You don't want a straight stalk tree.
No.
And you don't want a fork or a cluster
at the bottom,
close, low to the ground, because that tree is going to have more tendency to split and break on you when it gets mature and has some side. I would say if we're going to take one of these out to thin it up, I'd probably take this one out.
Yeah, because this comes this way.
That gives those an equal balance of room between the two, and this one is rubbing that limb, which is going to cause some trouble at some point. And that's kind of what you're trying to push over.
And this is a good limb we need to keep, right? Okay.
So we can always need, this is what they call a thumb cut. And if I was to cut that off there, I would still have a nub. That's the way you want to cut trees. If you cut it too close to the base of the tree, it could actually really shock or damage this portion.
That's what I was...
So you want to leave just a little bit. It's not as desirable to look at as far as the cut, but it's better for the tree.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That will heal over and it will not affect this limb.
And what about this one, which comes straight up the middle?
Well, we've got a little side growth, so usually what I do, this is your primary or initial pruning on this small tree.
Okay, stop here.
What I usually do is a stage or a step process.
Yeah.
I take off what I know I want to take off to balance that tree and get its core structure about, and then I'll just kind of watch stuff like this and see where it goes.
Yeah.
And later on in the season, if it doesn't please me or doesn't look right, I'll whack it off.
Okay.
But right now, you really don't kind of know what this is going to do, because this could get a little more size and it could wind up going like this.
With fruit on it.
You know. So,
you think there's any chance I'll get fruit on this tree this year?
Oh, it's very high possibility.
Haven't gotten any.
Us pruning this at this time of the year will not affect fruit growth.
Okay, well, because I haven't had any yet.
Once it buds, the buds will turn into blooms, and at that point you're done. You can't mess with it after that, or you lose your fruit crop for the year.
You mean in terms of pruning?
Yes, your bees is what pollinates the trees.
Right.
So that's why it's very important to use a product that is rated for fruit trees, because your scientists and developers, they take all of that into consideration for the rest of nature out here.
Right.
If you use an unrated pesticide or chemical
I'm not going to.
on stuff in your yard, it is very bad and can kill honeybees. And one of the best things, if you own very much of land or have a garden or fruit stock, you know, for an orchard or anything like that, one of the best things you can do for your property is put bees on it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to extract the honey, there are people that will come do that for you to get the honey out of there.
I'd love that.
But if you just let them go wild, I mean, the bees pollinate. They are good for everything on your land.
Did you have people bring bees to your place?
I got them myself and set them up and learned about them as I went. And they're very, very fascinating creatures and quite intriguing.
Well, I hardly ever see a honeybee. I always see bumblebees.
Yeah. Well, everything pollinates.
Yeah.
You know, they get into there to retrieve the nectar out of the plants, out of the blooms, and as they go from one to another, they pollinate the trees by taking that pollen out of this plant over and carry forth to the next plant.
It's just that you don't get honey except with honeybees.
That's right.
Well, hey there everybody, Kaye here on my homestead in Tennessee, and I've told you that I was excited to have my new contact for tree service and also certain kinds of landscaping. They do a lot of different things. Very excited to have them here today. Unfortunately, it had to go in rain. It's cold and rainy, and I've already soaked through that first jacket, he has already done the peach trees, 2 peach trees they have, and the smaller trees out here. Then he's pruning back the grapevines right now. So we still have the blackberries to do, Wade. Aye. So right now he's just doing a general cleanup of the vines, the grapevines. My grapevines, I have 9 vines, and I did not properly train the vines the very first year, so they got a little gnarly. It was very hard to prune them to the forearm Niffen method, which my friend Daryl taught me how to do. I have a video on that. I'll put it right up there. So the next year it was even tougher, and then last year I really worked hard to get it back to 2, but you know, it's really important that you get the vine going up straight that first year, the first year you plant it, if you want to do this method. Because as Wade just pointed out, the fruit grows on new wood only. This is true of blackberries also, in case you didn't know. You're not going to get any fruit on old wood, on old stems and branches. So he's trying to get that just a first go over so that he can actually see in there, because I had a lot of growth last year. Tree maintenance, grapevines, blackberries, it's all very important. You need to prune at the right time, prune in the right way to get maximum fruit. So hopefully that's what's going to happen. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, scroll down and click all so you won't miss an episode, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless you.